get going.
Yes. Okay. I think we'll get started. And I just wanted to acknowledge the last presentation, and I hope everybody was motivated by that. I certainly was. She's a powerhouse of energy for sure. And it's been a fantastic day so far. Other than a little glitch in the beginning, but that's okay. We'll move on with that. And I'm just so pleased and honored actually to introduce you to our next speaker, Vicki Bradley. And Vicki's not only an accomplished woman, but she's one of actually the kindest women I've met.
Aww.
Her generosity of spirit is so evident. She's just become a very good friend. And ironically, we haven't even physically met. So it's just been through COVID. So there you go. So just to tell you a little bit about Vicki, Vicki is a seasoned executive with 25 years plus experience leading high-performing teams in the retail industry across North America. She's held progressive roles with iconic retailers, including president of the Bombay Furniture Company in Canada, as well as SVP with Marks and Spencer's, Holt Renfrew, and the Woolworth organization across North America. Vicki sat on the board of directors of the Retail Council of Canada, Party Packagers, and OSI Tiles. And today, Vicki is a founder and executive coach at Vicki Bradley and Company, where she works with businesses to attract, retain, and advance women into senior leadership roles. She's also the founder and CEO of Will Empowered, that's Women in Leadership Empowered. And as a mentor and a coach for top executives, she discovered that most women were struggling to advance their careers due to underdeveloped soft skills and a lack of support. So she created the Will Empowered program to provide all the tools necessary for women to become effective leaders and accelerate their careers. So Vicki's topic today will be covering the power of you. So let us pass it on to you, Vicki, and tell us how we can become more powerful in ourselves.
Thank you, Kavita. Thanks for that warm welcome. And I feel the same about you. And you know what? We didn't even have to meet in person because virtually has allowed us this opportunity to actually get to know each other and so many other amazing women that, we're both connected with, and super grateful for that. And I saw a couple of messages there from Marianne and Stasha. Thank you. And Pam, thank you. Just thrilled to be here today. And before I jump in, I do have a PowerPoint, but I just want to sort of, set the tone of, how we're going to interact with each other. And first of all, I'm just honored and thrilled to be here and being able to connect with each and every one of you. And I struggle not to see all of you because I only get like a little bar at the top of my computer. And so I love being able to see each and every one of you, and for us to actually just have that moment where we can connect, but also so that you can connect with each other. So through my experiences, I have found that is one of the most valuable parts of our life is, when we're in service to others, but also when we're sharing fully who we are with each other. And Kavita, you've created this beautiful space for us today. And this is a real gift that you have created for everyone for today and the next 2 days. And it's not something to be taken lightly, and so just take a moment and just absorb really where you are and the fact that you're in this room with so many incredible women, and that's important. And it's not by accident that you're here. So, pat yourself on the back. Dr. Sonia had a riveting conversation. You're going to hear some similar things from me as well. We probably should have coordinated our presentations together, but that's okay because hearing it more than once is definitely well worth it. So, what I invite you to do today is participate. Okay. Don't be shy. I really would like some interaction with you, and treat this more as a conversation to where you start to open up a little bit with me and as I'm opening up with you. And before I jump into that, just a couple of key things I want to highlight from Dr. Sonia's presentation. I loved her analogy about empower, and empower is part of my part of my program. But also it's the spiritual side of us. And that is so critical that we're tapping into that knowingness that we have deep inside of us. And I will touch on that a little bit today, but just to invite you to really get to know yourself. And I had a conversation earlier today, and I think one or two people might be on this call, but we were talking about how we make decisions and what's our motive behind the motive of how we make decisions. And at the essence, it's really pausing long enough to where you take a deeper look inside yourself. You have all those answers, and so it's being able to tap into it. So I loved what she said about that, and that there is something bigger than us. And there is, whether whether you believe that or not, that's your choice. But I do believe there is something much bigger than us, and something that guides us to help us remember what we need to remember. And what she said about leftovers, we tend to be, we tend to do everything for everybody else, and then we think about ourselves, if we think about ourselves. And it's so important to put ourselves first, not last, in those equations. So I'll say that, and then I'm going to jump in. So Kavita, thank you for sharing. Let me just see if I can share my screen, and we'll get going here. Oops. And if most of you who know me know that I usually am challenged by technology. So bear with me. So Kavita, you won't be the only one that had challenges from earlier today. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Really appreciate the fact that you're, taking your time and investing in yourself and being here with us. And I'd like to share a little bit about my background. Kavita did share with you some of my history, and I did spend a lot of years in the retail industry, and I absolutely loved that time. I loved the roles that I had. I loved the people that I worked with. I was so fortunate to have so many amazing, team members that, that I led, but also that taught me. They taught me a lot about myself. They taught me a lot about life, humanity. And so I'm super grateful to all of those times. And so back in, I don't even remember what year now, 2007, that journey sort of ended for me. And what happened was I woke up one morning and I was very sick. I was scheduled to be on a flight to Dallas, Texas, as I was running both Canada and the US at that time. And I was very sick. And I had developed this autoimmune disease. And basically, what happened was it ended the career that I knew. And not only did I get very sick, but at the same time, I had three major stressors impact my life. So my health was impacted. I was very sick with my health. My husband left me with two children under the age of 5. And I was dealing with, him walking out, but also the fact that I was so sick. And then my company got sold. And I honestly thought that was the end of the world as I knew it. And the part of the reason for that is because I identified so much of my own personal worth with what I did. When people would say, who are you? What do you do? My first thing that I would say is, oh, I'm the president of the Bombay Furniture Company. And I identified everything that I was and did around the work that I did. And I share this for a very specific reason. And Sonia sort of tapped into that because many of us do believe that our work is what defines us. And it can to a degree, but you're a person fully, wholly, with or without the work. And sometimes, our kids will be what we identify ourselves with. And when we become empty nesters, all of a sudden we wake up and we go, now what? What do I do? Like, how do I continue to live? Because those kids that I've spent the last, 18, 19 years doing everything for, they've moved on. And reality check, that is our job. Our job is to teach them to be independent, self-sufficient, and to go out and make their way in the world. And sometimes we identify with, who our partner is. I'm Mrs. So-and-so. And so, if things happen, either we lose that person because of death or we divorce that person, then all of a sudden we have this identity crisis. And so I share all those for a reason, because that doesn't mean that is what defines us. And we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about the power of you. And so, Back in 2014, after many years, about 7, 8 years, I had gone through all this rehabilitation to get myself ready to go back to work. And so I thought, yeah, I'm ready. My doctor said, yep, you can take this on. And so I went back to work. I went to work for Holtz as the vice president for them, and not felt like I didn't miss a beat. And within 3 months, I started getting sick again. And that's when I knew that I had to do something different. I had to really reevaluate my life and figure out what's missing. What's not working any longer, because clearly I couldn't continue doing what I had done for 25 plus years. And so I began this journey to determine what I was meant to do. And so after a lot of soul searching, I went back to school and I received my certification in coaching. And, part of the reason I did that is because I really looked at what did I love about what I did as a retailer. And it always came back to people, always pushing people beyond what they thought they were capable of, always believing in people. And I have, I'll call her one of my students. She's on here today. And, somebody that I believed in. I saw the power that this woman had in her, the ability that she had to influence and to help other people succeed. And so that's why I picked coaching, because I knew that that would give me the avenue to still be able to support people, to help empower them, and really see their own personal worth. And so now I'm focused on, helping individuals be fully empowered, and that they know they have a choice and that they can see the many possibilities that are available. So, when I think back, I could have been that victim. I could have, rolled over and let my illness, let my divorce, all of those things define me and just give up on life. But I didn't. I chose to go a very different route. And I say that because that's where I am today. And I am an advocate for women. I'm an advocate for the free will that we all have if we actually take time to, go inside and really figure out what's buried within us so that we can remember what it is we're meant to do. And so let me ask you a question, and this is where your interaction needs to come in. What would you do if you were not afraid? If you had no excuses, no fears, no worries, and like Nike says, you could just do it, what would that look like? Would you go travel, like go solo and go travel the world? I saw Kavita said that earlier with Dr. Sonia. Would you go solo and do that? Sometimes we're afraid to do that as women. Would you get off that hamster wheel of life where we're busy, 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 and we just go, go, go? Would you get off of it and start to really live fully the life that you are meant and want to live? Maybe you'd take some time to invest in yourself to really discover what's buried deep inside. What is that purpose? What are you meant to do? So maybe share with me, what would that look like? And you can take yourself off mute, or you can put it in the chat, whichever one you're more comfortable with. I don't know if I can see the chat. Let's see here.
Okay, yeah. I'll do it.
Okay, Pam, just share. What would you do?
Oh, I thought I was saying that to myself. Anyway, Vicki, what I would do is I'm finally going to finish my book, but what I would do is do really basically what I'm doing now, but not have that horror of making money or all, I would just do it because I love doing what I do.
Yes.
It'd be a different kind of work.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Can you see the chat? Can you see the chat, Vicki? Or?
No.
Okay, I'll read it to you.
Okay, yeah, it's not letting me.
So, sorry, I don't. Okay, so Lynn says she'd like to travel the world and live in different places. I said I'd like to write my first book.
Oh, yes, lovely.
And volunteer was one of them. Find ways to share my experiences to help others was from Vanessa.
Beautiful.
And Tina says to go on a journey to find my true purpose.
Oh, love it. Love it. All great responses. And so what holds you back from doing
Nina
that?
had her hand up.
I was just going to say, I mean, mine's not crystalline in terms of what it would be, but definitely stepping back into the coaching work that I've done having gone through a tragedy in the last couple of years myself, and just really stepping forward in that new way, if that makes sense. I'm sort of in that place, in that space. And definitely I feel very drawn to continuing to work with women, but I feel it'll be in a slightly new way. So I'm excited to explore
Beautiful.
that.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And
She'd be awesome, by the way. I can
What?
vouch for that. Sorry to interrupt.
No. And I want it to be open conversation because there's so much power when we share what it is. And I know sometimes people get nervous, do I speak up? I don't want to interrupt kind of thing. And no, I want you to speak up and I want you to participate because that is how we stretch ourselves. When you, and Dr. Sonia said this, and I'll say it later on, but when you say it out loud, then that starts to make it more real. When you can start to affirm what that is that you're looking to do, what what your clarion call is, what your heart's desire is, like that starts to come true when you are sharing that with the universe. And so it's super important that you do. And thank you all for sharing. So what do you?
Can I do one more thing, Vicki?
Yes, of course.
And I put this in the chat, so if you couldn't, you
I
couldn't read it.
And it's not letting me open the chat.
It's okay. What I find is that all of us, we forget that there has to be a stopping point in the work that we do. We have to start caring about what we do personally, because our personal growth will help our business growth.
Yeah.
But one of my really strong analogies is if you look at a tombstone, it doesn't say that you were a CEO or that it died for your job or anything like that. It says that you were a mother, a father,
Yes.
all of that. And I think that we lose that perspective.
Yeah. Great.
So
Great
I'm
point,
saying,
yeah.
There's thanks for that. There's another one from Sandy. She says that help expand and deepen relationships with my friends and family by figuring out ways to enrich our lives.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love that. That's very, very purposeful and very powerful. Well done, Sandy.
And do you want me to go on, or do you want to?
Yeah, if you want to read one or two more, and then I'll jump in because I want to talk about why we're not.
Yeah, sure. So Nancy says, rolling up my sleeves to work with the most vulnerable in society, work at a women's shelter, for example.
Wow, that's very powerful as well.
Marianne says, be myself fully and transparently.
Yes, beautiful Marianne. She does that already. I can attest to that. So what has held you back from doing what you want to do so far? Anybody want to speak up?
I would say fear for a lot of people. Fear of not being good enough, fear of failure, as I said earlier, even fear of possibly succeeding.
Yes,
right?
100%. Yes.
Sorry, Nina, you were saying?
I was just going to say I really resonated with the word perfectionism, and that really can get in my way. So it becomes my procrastination, and I'll get everyone else up and running where they need to go, and then I kind of put me on the back burner.
Hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that, even being a perfectionist, comes from fear, right? Because when it's that fear of failure, fear of not being enough, of whatever, as Kavita just said, fearing you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not beautiful, whatever it may be. It's usually the enough that scares us. And fear is very normal. We all experience fear from time to time, but it's okay to experience it. It's what you do with it that counts, right? And so it's making that decision and deciding, I can forget everything and run, or I can face it and actually rise. And so if you think about that for a moment, how often have you been afraid to do something, but when you actually did it, you were a huge success with it? Or, the outcome was far beyond your expectations of what you thought. And, your world didn't end, right? It just was just the beginning of the new you, or the person that you want to be. And so it's trying to flip that fear from something that prohibits you to something that is actually fueling you. And so one of the things I invite you to do is take one of those examples when you've been fearful. And Vanessa shared something earlier with me. Take one where you've been fearful and you remember that experience, and that helps to fuel you because the outcome was so much greater than what you thought possible, right? And sometimes it's not being tied to the outcome. It's giving yourself that permission to go for what you want and to experiment with things. And so if I use the example from when I got sick, it would have been really easy for me to say, I'm in too much pain. I can't walk. I look like I was 100 years old. I was walking with a walker. People that knew me were like, oh my God, what happened to you? I could have played that victim. I could have stayed in bed and just wallowed in self-pity, but I didn't. I picked myself up, and I knew that I had to push deep inside to figure out how to survive. But more importantly, how was I going to thrive in this world? Because that was not my nature. My nature was, like Dr. Sonia, bouncing all over the walls. And I was a road warrior. I traveled all the time. And so the important thing is to know that you have choices. And so my world as I knew it had actually ended. But what I did was I created the new world, and a world that could serve others to the same level and more so than what I ever could have done in the environment that I was in retail. And so, I was terrified doing this because I didn't know if I would be a success. I didn't know if the women that I wanted to work with were going to be impacted. But something inside me kept saying and kept pushing me that if only one woman was impacted in a positive way, then it was all worth it. And so it's giving yourself that push, right? To really face things and to go for those dreams that you have, because there's somebody out there waiting for you. And she shared that, right? Somebody's waiting to hear your message. So don't be selfish. Put yourself out there and really go for that, and how you can impact others. So it's true, when we are pulled out of our comfort zone, this is when we're going to actually experience the most growth. And fear can actually be a great motivator for us. It can actually be what fuels us to go above and beyond what we thought possible. And when you recognize failure is just an opportunity for other possibilities, that's not so scary anymore. And so it allows us then to face that and to really go after what it is we're looking for. And I invite you, just take a look at how much more is possible when you look at things from your head, you get limited because that ego kicks in. When you look at things from your heart, many, many things are possible. And so it's trying to stay very in tune to that heart space and what that is pushing you to do, because that's how you find your purpose. That's what drives you to really have the impact that you're looking to have. And so if you think back to my example that I just gave you, I wasn't prepared to get this autoimmune disease. And, I wasn't prepared for it to be the end of my story. And what I had to look at was I going to let this fear paralyze me and keep me from being fully the person that I knew that I was meant to be? Or was I going to actually, slow myself down enough to really recognize that this is just an opportunity for me to do something even better? And so sometimes we'll second guess ourselves, and it can actually stop us from living the life we're meant to live. And so that's where the power of you actually comes in. So being fully you and standing in your own power, that is empowering, not only for you, but it's empowering for others who are, watching what you're doing. They listen to what you say. They see how you show up in the world. And basically, when you're allowing yourself to be fully in your power, you're also giving permission to others to own their own power. So you think about that. Think about the people that you are impacting and giving them permission to be fully themselves. So it's knowing that your choice is powerful and liberating. And regardless of whether you do it or not, it's the fact that you know that you have a choice, that you actually can do something, or you don't have to do it. It's the fact that you know you have a choice in what it is you want to do. And you want to dare to live that life that you've dreamed of, and knowing that you are powerful enough to make that happen. So if it's writing that book, it's, removing that self-doubt that says, well, what have I got to say that, anybody's going to want to hear? It's believing that there's someone out there in this world that needs to hear your story. Okay. And so we think about, why is choice important? Each of us have the right to make decisions, and we have choices about how we live our lives. And so each person may have different ideas about what works for them, what's important to them, what makes them feel at their very best. But making your own choice about the things you do is very important, because it gives your life meaning. And you don't want to wake up someday and have these regrets to say, I wish I had, I should have, I could have, I would have. It's really owning those choices and the possibilities that you have. And when you understand possibilities that are available, that's the key to bringing out the power that resides within you. And we all have that. We're all graced with our own unique, special gifts, our own talents. Like, each of us are designed in a very special, unique way. And it's our, I'll say, responsibility to bring that to this world and to grace others with what it is you have, that you were given. And so that they then can honor their own gifts and powers and share those with us. And, possibilities are defined by that. Sorry, let me say that again. Possibilities are defined as something that may be true or that might occur, or something that can be chosen from amongst a series of choices. So that's why choice is so important in everything that we do. And there's this place in between your comfort zone and your dreams that life takes place. And so, I invite you to follow those passions and those dreams and not have regrets later in life. And so, my mother said this to me one day. She said, it can be one day or day one. It's your choice. Which way do you want to live your life? And that's a pretty powerful statement when you think about it. So is it going to be one day I'll do, or day one I'll start doing? And so, that's a great sticky to put on your computer, or put on your phone to remind yourself, what's it going to be? Because you want to push yourself to be the fullest of what you possibly can be. So understanding the power of you, being able to embrace and believe that you have this power to say, this is not how my story is going to end. That is an incredibly bold and confident statement. So how do you find that purpose of what you're meant to do? What is the story? When your why is big enough, you figure out the how. How many times have you heard that? When you know what your why is, the how will always come. So anybody want to share what you think your purpose might be, or what you think you're meant to do? Everybody's going to be shy.
I don't mean to put her on the spot, but Nancy had put in a comment, and you don't have to share, Nancy, but not sure how to start questioning what I can contribute. Mm-hmm. So maybe you want to, elaborate on that. If not, that's okay. But I thought I'd share the chat.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks for, and that's a great point. So it's not knowing what you can contribute. And that's where you do some of that soul searching and figure out, what are my gifts? What are my strengths? Because you have something within you, even to ask that question, you have something in you that is just begging you to let it out and share it with the world. So it's figuring out what that is. And sometimes that's getting help from somebody that can help you to pull that out. Sometimes it's asking yourself those tough questions. Sometimes it's, what are some of those experiences? I've shared with you my journey and what's led me to where I am today. Dr. Sonia was sharing her journey, some of the experiences that she's gone through that has driven her to where she is today and how she's impacting women. And so it's looking at those experiences that you've had, right? The struggles or the failures or the successes that you've had. And how do you use that to help you, really build something that is truly of your essence? hopefully that makes sense what I said.
It's Lynn. I think I'm going to be different than most of the people on the session, or at least it's sound that way since the session started today. And so I love the corporate world. So I'm feeling like, maybe there is a pill for that, but I have been, since I've left corporate world, I miss it terribly. And so I know that a lot of really smart women and men have, tried to convince me to start my own business, et cetera, be a coach extraordinaire. And I don't want to do that. And so I think that's a good plus. I've figured out I don't want to do that. And Marianne will laugh because I still want to do this. I actually want to bring humanness to corporate Canada. Right. And so I'm very passionate about elevating the human experience. And I think that, the gift that I believe that I have and the talent is that I want to be able to work with a leadership team that believes in that too, but they don't know how. Right. And so I don't remember if it was you, if it was Sonia, or was the speaker before, but that's what that's what I want my legacy to be. Mm-hmm. Is that a big organization, well, big, it doesn't have to be big, but an organization that is for profit can take a human-centric journey to get to that, right? And to be good for the community and have social responsibility, et cetera. But it really is about putting the human first. And so my challenge right now is to find a like-minded CEO. And so that's the journey that I'm on.
Well, that's beautiful, Lynn. And thank you for sharing that. And yes, I think that's a great goal because big business is what runs our country, right? And we desperately need to have more of that human element. And if, I'll go through my Rolodex and see who I know because I think that that's so critical. And there's so many pressures of, especially if it's a public company, and you know this well, but there's so many pressures of, making sure the stock price is a certain price point, satisfying shareholders, investors, like all of those pressures happen, which dehumanizes the reality of what the business world is about. And humans are what make up that business. We just forget that. And sometimes I think what happens is we start to believe that, if everybody just follows what we tell them to do, it'll be easier. When we can humanize it and bring people in to be part of the solution, it definitely creates a much more engaging environment and a much more profitable business. We just sometimes lose sight of that. So I think your aspiration is beautiful, and we need to get you into some of these companies to get them humanized. Yes. Yes. And I can share with you even my experience at Holtz. That was, I got sick again, but that was also my mission, was how do I help them humanize that organization? Because it was, very much a different environment that I had ever been in. And they weren't used to somebody like me, because I would get in, roll up my sleeves. I'm right in there in the trenches working with my people, but also tapping into my people constantly with, how do we make it better? What's going to make you happy? Bringing them into the fold of how we create this great organization. And that's always been my success measurement, I would say, in the roles that I've had, because it was always about the teams and the people. And so it's, getting those CEOs who understand that. And there are some out there that certainly, they're there. We just have to help you find them. So thank you for that. That's awesome. So I want to read a little bit of a book that Marianne Williamson had written, and it's a message that she wrote that I thought was so appropriate for our conversation today. And it's from The Law of Divine Compensation. I don't know if anybody's ever read her books, but Marianne Williamson is, Nina, I see, has read some. She was shaking her head. She's an amazing writer and extremely spiritual. But what she says is that women are tempted to believe that our value declines with our physical beauty. Yet sometimes it's when our outer beauty begins to fade that our inner beauty shines most brightly. The gifts of age aren't quite as tangible as the gifts of youth, but they are no less real. As we claim them, fully appreciating the non-material gifts of wisdom that comes from accumulated life experiences, the universe will follow the lead, reflecting back to us the value we first accord ourselves. The universe is flexible, and if we're open to infinite possibilities, then possibilities will appear. Like when you think about that, that's quite beautiful. And so, Nancy, that goes back to not really, not always knowing what your mission is, what your purpose is. And it's knowing there that you have that in you, right? And it's putting it out to the universe that those possibilities are there. And there's lots of us around that can help you. Marianne does a great job with her illuminating individuals. I do a lot of work in helping women to be empowered. But it's finding those people that can help you figure that out so that you are living very purposefully. So when we think about empowerment, just want you to take a moment and either put in the chat or open it up. I'd love for you to open it up and talk with me. What does being empowered mean to you? And when do you feel the most empowered in life?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Nina.
I think when I'm doing something that I love and time just goes by and I just feel like it's a mission that was meant for me. So I feel very empowered by doing something that I really love.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kavita.
Nina,
Nina,
I really, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead, Kavita, finish.
No, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Nina, I think you were getting ready to say something as well.
Yeah, just piggybacking on what Kavita said very much. When I am totally aligned with my soul essence purpose and doing what I love and connected to my heart, like that's a huge one for me through my own spiritual practices. That just makes everything ease-filled for me as well, because then I don't get into the intellect. I'm more heart-centered.
Beautiful. Beautiful and well said. And it's when we can get out of here and get into our heart space that we can really feel that connection and the power that does reside in us, because we are fully at our essence. Anybody else want to share? Thank you, Nina.
Tracy shared something on the chat, Tracy Lewell. So when you have a clear vision, all the tools and support you need to achieve your goals.
Nice. Thank you, Tracy.
All the tools. Yeah. I
Anybody
guess that
else?
she means that all the tools come forward when you have a clear vision.
Yes. It's true. It's true. Because it goes back to what I just said about the infinite possibilities, right? When you put that out to the universe, then the universe will provide you with the possibilities and the opportunities. Yeah.
And Tina says helping others is what empowering means to her.
I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time?
Helping others, Tina said, is what makes her feel empowered.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. And what about things that you do for yourself that can help you feel empowered? What would some of those look like? Just a question. I know for myself, if I'm meditating or journaling, I feel empowered because I'm able to express, right? I can express what's going on, how I'm feeling. That makes me feel more empowered. Or when I feel like I'm very confident about the subject that I'm talking about. Nina, did you want to say something?
Vanessa says knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I was just in agreement with you with what you said. And also for me right now, just really working on those clear boundaries so that my space for what I need to do with my life purpose is there, because I find that gets the water gets a bit muddied in that area at times.
Mhm.
So, mhm.
Well said. Well said. Yes. And something I started writing in my, or blocking, I would say, in my calendar is um, create space time, right? Because creative time, because we get so busy, right? A lot of times, and we were talking about that with Dr. Sonia, it's that I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. And it's, you focus on what's important to you. So if being busy is what's important to you, that's what you focus on. If creative time is important to you, or nourishing time for yourself is important to you, or, even taking that time to slow down, like we've always felt guilty about doing that in the past. And it's allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to take that time to, go inside and ask yourself those important questions, right? I think somebody might have said something. I don't know.
So there's a couple of comments. I'm sorry, I know Vicki, you can't read them, but Leslie says, stepping out of your comfort zone and surviving or even thriving.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And Tracy says confidence.
Absolutely. Yes. And when we are confident, we feel more empowered, right? Because we're less likely to procrastinate. We'll actually go after what it is we're looking to do. So what's interesting is the M in empowered is to put in or into or bring to a certain state of power. And so when you think about that, it's like how you bring yourself into a state of power. And a lot of times that is reaffirming with yourself who you are and what those gifts are that you bring. And so it's, when you enable yourself to be empowered, that's when you're able to actually reach your highest potential. So, what you want to remember is that, oops, what's happening here? It's not letting me flip. Oh, there we go. A bad day for the ego is actually a great day for the soul. So our ego is there to keep us playing small, and it keeps us safe. And it is very powerful, but it's remembering that you're more powerful, because deep down, you know how to overcome those messages. And, when our ego tries to take over, and it is very powerful, it's those little subtle messages that it's always sharing with us. It's important that we're able to recognize those subtleties, like who's saying that, where's that coming from, and why, and thanking your ego, acknowledging that you hear it, and thank you for keeping you safe, but you're ready. You've got this. You're ready to take on that next step or that next challenge or that purpose, whatever that may be. And remember, the ego is very powerful. It will try to keep you very small, and you don't want to play small. You're too important in this world to not go out there and make things happen. And so when you think about that, like, how are you evaluating your worth? And I hear this so many times for clients where they're not feeling maybe that they're as worthy as they should be. And so, what I want you to think about is, so many times people forget, or they allow that ego to take over, and to the messages that the ego is sharing are messages that create self-doubt. And somebody was saying, I think it was you, Nina, said this earlier, or it might have been Kavita, where, the messages or the stories that you hear are that you're not enough. You're not smart enough. You're not rich enough. You're not beautiful enough. You don't know enough people. Whatever the story may be, the story is not what's important. What's important is that you're not buying into those messages from the ego. And it's knowing that you are worthy. It's knowing that you are in control of your own power, that your power is more powerful than that ego is. And especially given our current climate of today, like, really believing in that and knowing that is absolutely essential. And, here's some tips that are helpful when you think about, how do I know my worth? How do I continue to encourage myself? And so part of that is being gracious with yourself. So just as you offer kindness to your friends, or if you hear somebody saying something to themselves that is not very encouraging or positive, it's, you say something to them, but what messages are you telling yourself? So offer that graciousness to yourself. That self-compassion is actually essential, especially when you're on this growth journey. That is so, so important. And saying goodbye to negative self-talk, right? Like how many times have you heard yourself say, oh my God, I mean, I used to do this. Oh my God, Vicki, that was so stupid. Why would you do that? And it's not doing that to yourself, because you wouldn't say that to your best friend. And knowing what you repeat outwardly or even inwardly becomes truth, whether it's false or not. And Dr. Sonia talked about that. So what you say to yourself becomes true. That's what you're attracting. And you want to stop comparing yourself to others, right? You're designed in this world with your own special gifts and talents, and you want to make sure that that you're focused on what those gifts and talents are, and that social media is not real life. You're actually living real life. And I've had so many people say to me, well, I see so and so doing this in social media and so is doing that. It's all fake. Okay. And so remembering that what you're living is your real life, and then doing the mirror test, right? So look in the mirror and ask yourself those big questions. Who am I? What is my purpose? What are the gifts and talents that I'm supposed to be sharing with the world? And be honest with yourself. Like really take some time to answer those questions. And if you're struggling with some of these, get support. It's hard to ask those questions and be honest with yourself. And so, you want to be able to uncover and remove some of those obstacles that get in your way. So find that person that can help you tamper that ego down and what keeps you living your best life, because that's what's important. And you want to do it today. Do it for you, because you're worth it. You are 100% worth it. And so I invite each of you today to take some time, whether it's, now or whether it's later, start to write down, what are your gifts? What are your attributes? What are your virtues? What is it that you bring to this world? And don't be shy about it. Don't worry, oh, would so-and-so say, would they think this about me? I want you to think about what you think about of yourself, what you see of yourself. And that will help you start to move into that more purposeful life. And remember that exploring choice expands your perspectives. And it's time to stop being anyone else other than who you are. And so it's no accident that you're here today. And remember, the power is of you. Okay. So that is so important to recognize within yourself. And so I'd open it up to questions. I do want to share that in 2021, I am working on a program called Living Empowered. And if anybody's interested, my contact is on the screen. You can certainly reach out. But it will be an exciting program, because we will get into things like the motive behind the motive. We're going to talk about the sex of decision making, the power of silence, and how we clear that noise in the ego, navigating empathy, a whole bunch of different things, but it'll be an exciting program. So if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to me directly. So I'd like to open it up for questions if anybody has any. And I think I've kind of hit my quota on time, haven't I, Kavita?
Oh, no, you're good. Thank you so much, Vicki. There was a comment from Alex that I thought I'd read. She said, love this, Vicki. Buddha said that you are what you think.
Yes.
So that's so very true. I think it's what are the comments and the tips you have given to increase self-worth. I don't think we can hear them enough, really. I mean, we may have heard them in different ways, but I think it's so important to really be gracious with yourself. Say goodbye to negative self-talk, stop comparing yourself, and, look at the mirror and say, who am I? What is it that I really want? So those are great, really great tips. And does anybody have any questions for Vicki? She's a wealth of knowledge, so you have her here.
Thank you, Kavita.
I think it's really important to what I did when I moved from the corporate world to entrepreneurship is I did look at what I really loved about what I did in the past. Because all their experiences lead up to where you are today, right? So there's got to be things in the past that you really loved and enjoyed, and how can I bring that to the future? And I think that's really important. You can't just forget everything that you've done, right? You have to
100%.
bring your talents and your skills forward into something that really is meaningful for you. So
yeah. And
thank you
what's the need? What's the need that you see in the world?
Exactly.
And how can you help to make that shift? How can you we're living in a world that's full of fear right now. How do we start to unite and come together and reduce some of that fear and join, even like the conference that you're doing right now, Kavita, is all about bringing us together. And that is so important. The connections are so important to support each other, to get through some of the things that are happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have any last thoughts, or anybody else, anything? I think everyone is just saying, thanks, Vicki. Great conversation. And I think it was really nice to have everybody chime in. So I think, Nina, do you have something to say?
I was just going to say that was fantastic, Vicki. Thank you so much. You bring such a calm, wise, and inspiring presence when you speak. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Nina.
And where are you, Vicki? Are you in the US or are you in Canada?
I'm in Canada. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just north of Toronto. I am American, but I've actually almost lived in Canada longer than I lived in the US now.
Okay.
Thank you.
And do you mind my asking a personal question, just in terms of your wellness? Did you find that you did go into remission and that you did?
Yeah. When I changed my life, I changed my life. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm in the best place probably I've been in the last 15 years. Yeah. And thank you for asking. And usually illness shows up. I mean, I could have gone into a whole part on that, because that dis-ease or disease that shows up, it's happening for a reason, because we're not in alignment. We're not in integrity with who we are. And I coach a lot around that because I've lived it. And, it's finding that alignment, finding how you become fully you. And then it takes care of a lot of the challenges that we have physically. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
It's a great question, Nina. Thank you. Awesome.